Hello everyone and welcome to Who Wore It Better, the weekly segment in which I review Raw and Smackdown back to back and try and figure out which show won for the week. It is go home week for the Ramble Rumble, TM Vladimir Kozlov, and I do just want to apologize for my extra saltiness from last week talking about the whole Smackdown snowflakes thing. I'm sorry about that, guys. I promise I won't lash out at you guys again, okay? Let's just start clean. Before we begin about the Raw and Smackdown comparison, I do just want to talk about one general grievance I have with Raw. This is not going to be a knock on them for the week specifically. It's just an overarching thing that is finally has kind of gotten grating on me. And if you followed my Twitter and Facebook from last night about Raw, prepare for some repetition here because I want to talk about it again. Just the overall treatment of Byron Saxton as a doormat on commentary. Look, it's easy and fun to make fun of Byron Saxton on commentary. He's not the best in the world, but then again, I don't think he's the worst either. And the fact that every segment of every Raw is just like Corey Graves just constantly shitting on Byron Saxton. And then the guest announcers, whether it be Austin Aries or whoever is there at the table, just more shitting on Byron Saxton. Even Cole's getting in on it. And I think it's really unfortunate because it really harms Saxton's worth as an on-air personality, and it also brings down the whole rest of the show. The problem I have with Saxton getting shit on so much in commentary is he never gets a chance to stand up for himself and speak back against Corey Graves or Kevin Owens from Monday Night or whoever, etc. And on the rare chance he does get a rebuttal in or he gets an otherwise good point, it's always drowned out by Corey Graves and Michael Cole calling whatever spot is happening in the ring. So he really never gets a chance to shine. And from what people are telling me is it sounds like they're trying to recreate the dynamic between Graves and Phillips at NXT, but it's obvious they're not doing it. You know, the magic there isn't happening between Graves and Saxton. And I think what's happening is if they really do want to build up Saxton and they want to try and groom him as an on-air personality for years to come, like, don't do this, what they're doing, because all it's doing is damaging his long-term credibility and success. He's worthless now if they try and have him do anything else. Say what you will about, you know, David Otunga. He is objectively worse on commentary than Byron Saxton, but JBL is like super nice to him. Like, he never treats Otunga the way that Graves treats Saxton, and Otunga is objectively far fucking worse than Byron Saxton. And don't get me wrong, I love having heels at the announce table. I think having that face heel dynamic, or at least neutral heel dynamic in announcing, works fine. But I don't feel it's ever been this toxic and just visceral like Graves and Saxton. Like, Jesse Ventura is the closest I can come up with, but like he never really like dug into Gorilla Monsoon the way Graves does for Saxton. King would rip into JR a little bit, but never this bad. And it's just, to me, again, it hurts Saxton's credibility as an on-air talent, and yeah, it just makes the whole show harder to listen to. Graves is totally insufferable to me now. There was a time where I thought Corey Graves was great, but now hearing him on Raw, it's like, wow, you are trying too hard to be like Jesse Ventura, and you're just getting way too out of line with it. And I'm sure Vince is telling you to do this and just keep egging on Byron Saxton, but they're not giving Saxton a chance to shine. And it's just like becoming so hard to listen to Corey Graves now, and by proxy, everything else going on with the announce team, that it just really, really bugs me. Anyway, on to the show itself. Roman Reigns kicks Raw off. The shark cage is moved from the stage into the ring. Apparently it's sentient now. A pretty good promo work by all three guys, especially near the end. My favorite part of this whole segment was when Jericho is talking to Reigns saying, oh, I'm just going to beat you at this and that. And Reigns goes, did you just offer me a rematch? Are we going to have the rematch right now? And the fans are popping for it. They're going, yes, they're doing the yes chant and everything. They're excited for it. I'm like, wow, are fans really popping for something Roman Reigns is saying in 2017? Truly crazy times we live in. Cesaro taking on Luke Gallows in singles action. After the big dusty finish from last week on Raw, they've announced that for the kickoff show for the Royal Rumble on Sunday, they're going to have another tag team title match between the two where two referees are going to be involved. Boy, that won't impact the finish at all. I enjoy how this match was booked, actually. It's really clever. You know, it starts out with Anderson getting the cheap shot on Cesaro. He's chased out of ringside by Sheamus. Later on, Sheamus gets the cheap shot on Gallows. Anderson comes back, knocks out Sheamus, distracts the referee while Cesaro has Gallows in the sharpshooter. Gallows recovers and beats Cesaro in the singles contest. And like I said before in the last couple of weeks, and this week in particular, I think now there's a lot of big momentum on the side of Anderson and Gallows. The Good Brothers are looking stronger now than they have in the last few months, especially that big feud with the New Day where it didn't really go anywhere. You thought they were going to win, and then nothing happened. And so now I think this is probably the best and strongest they've looked in quite some time. They have all the momentum in the world going for them in the tag title match on Sunday. I'm going to lump the Bayley and Charlotte interviews, the build-up for the women's title match, just in this one little segment here. I thought both interviews were really strong. I think, you know, I've been complaining in the past couple weeks about the dynamic between the two here in this storyline. I don't think Bayley has looked particularly strong, but in this environment, in this little interview environment between the two of them especially, I think the dynamic between like privileged Charlotte and like fan living out her dream, Bayley could not be more concrete and more like obvious, but in a good way. Like, it feels right now. I think like now that these lines have been clearly illustrated in these promos about how Charlotte admits to her privilege and admits that she is better, this and that Bayley is just a fan. She's living out this fantasy land, fantasy dream, and it's going to come crashing down. Bayley finally exuding the confidence I've been wanting out of her for weeks now, ever since she's been on the main roster. So yeah, this is some of the strongest work I've seen from both women. Maybe it helps to be pre-taped, I don't know. But I am definitely more excited about this match now than I was a week or two ago. Seth Rollins taking on Sami Zayn. If Sami Zayn wins, he gets Seth Rollins' spot in the Royal Rumble match. Interesting thing here, they're trying to play up on the whole friend versus friend, foe versus foe thing, but the one thing I would think they didn't really do enough of before this match was really establish how good of friends Rollins and Zayn are. I mean, like, the smart fans know that these two have a history back in Ring of Honor and stuff like that in the indie scene, but only for the last couple of weeks I feel they've really been having the two of them even sharing the same space on television. Like, it wasn't until very recently that they're on the same side doing, like, fighting mutual opponents and stuff. So to me, it almost feels very put upon. Like, again, smart fans understand, and the commentators did a very good job trying to explain the history between these two guys. But I think if you're just a casual fan, or you don't really know, if you're not up to speed on like what their history was like before they got signed, then it's like, okay, like, are they that good of friends? Like, they've only been hanging out for a couple of weeks. But that aside, I thought this was definitely my favorite match of the week between Raw and SmackDown, my favorite match between both shows. These two just brought it. I loved the false finishes going into this match, the Michinoku Driver and the Blue Thunder Bomb and the Falcon Arrow and the kick to the side of the head by Rollins. It's all great. The pedigree on the apron was an incredible spot, you know, countered out of the haluva kick attempt on the apron. And then when you think Rollins has it won, like, Triple H's music plays, everyone freaks out, oh, is he gonna come out? No, it's a distraction. Sami Zayn rolls up Rollins and wins the match. So that was a huge shock to me, and I'm sure to a lot of people, that Zayn would win this thing. I think when you saw this match on paper, kind of a foregone conclusion, oh, Rollins is gonna win and go on to the Rumble, and Sami Zayn's gonna look pouty on the sideline. But no, now you get this interesting thing where Sami Zayn wins his spot in the Rumble in this very high profile match. So now some people, I got a couple of tweets from some people saying that maybe Zayn could win the whole thing. I think that might be a little premature, but I do think he's going to do very well for himself in the Rumble match. It's also kind of a surprise that they had the Triple H distraction thing here, costing Rollins his time in the Rumble match, because I think a lot of people predicted that, oh, Rollins is going to be in the match for a while, then Triple H comes out and costs him in some way. I think that's kind of what we all kind of naturally expected to happen, but they pulled the trigger on it a week early. And so now, like, is Rollins, like, is he going to fight his way back in? Is he going to, like, jump somebody in the back and take their spot at the Rumble? Is he just going to be there? Like, I find it very odd that he wouldn't be booked on the Rumble pay-per-view at all, much less the match or something like that. So I'm curious as to what they're going to do with him on Sunday, but it is a big shock, and they did kind of, like, it is kind of unpredictable. That I think there's so many big storylines going on with the Rumble as it is right now, that his and Triple H thing was just like one of them. I think by taking that off the table in the Rumble match, it makes it for a cleaner story overall for the whole Rumble match. Cruiserweight 6-man action. It's TJ Perkins, Mustafa Ali, and Jack Gallagher taking on Tony Nese, Daivari, and Drew Gulak. The whole point of this segment was to get Mustafa Ali over, since it was his first appearance on Raw. He did great. You know, the one thing I thought was kind of irksome, and I think that people have brought this up before online in the last few weeks, that they've totally just stolen Marty Scurll's umbrella prop and, like, given it to Jack Gallagher. Like, come on, man. Like, that can't be a coincidence. Big mid-card tag team segment happening here. The New Day come out, they cut a promo, but they're quickly interrupted by Enzo and Cass. Cass announces he's going to be in the Rumble match, but not Enzo. Thought that was kind of weird. Then handsome Rusev comes out and kills it with the promo skills. He announces he's going to be in the Rumble match. Titus O'Neil interrupts, and then Xavier Woods says, "Cash me outside, how about that?" which the crowd popped for. I had no idea what that was a reference to. I didn't know it was a reference until, like, later that night, and I saw what people were saying on Facebook and Twitter about, like, oh, this is a thing. The crowd's actually really hot for this segment too. Then Titus says there's going to be an 8-man tag team match, but they're missing one person. Then Braun comes out. He's the 4th man in Team Heel. At some point in the match, Rusev's nose apparently starts bleeding, because next time I see him, he's got a big tampon or something hanging out of his nose. The match ends when Enzo gets wrecked by Braun Strowman. Team Heel wins the day, and the Big Show makes a surprise appearance. We haven't seen him on TV in a while. He's looking slim, trim, maybe not 217 pounds, but he's getting there. They have a cool stare down. It's very rare to see someone taller than Braun Strowman on TV, and so it's kind of cool to see that moment. It's kind of like the passing of the torch, like from one giant to the other. It was a really cool moment. U.S. Championship match, Chris Jericho defending against Roman Reigns in a rematch. All that. One thing I thought was weird about this was, like, in the opening segment, Kevin Owens made the rematch, accepted the rematch on behalf of Chris Jericho, and Jericho was very visibly upset by this, but Kevin Owens talks him down. I'm very surprised that between that opening segment and this match, there was like not one bit of like backstage stuff between the two of them, like no trying to build any kind of like, what are you doing? Like, but anyway, Kevin Owens is on commentary and just like destroys Byron Saxton the entire time, which is kind of what precipitated me going on my rant earlier in this review about the treatment of Byron Saxton on commentary. Anyway, the match ends when Kevin Owens runs down and jumps Roman Reigns. The match ends in a disqualification. They try and put Roman Reigns in the shark cage, but it backfires. They put Kevin Owens in the shark cage. They raise it up. And then afterward, they announce that, oh, the match at the Royal Rumble for the Universal title is now going to be no disqualification, which gave me pause because I was like, well, the fact that it's no DQ, doesn't that just kind of negate the entire point of Chris Jericho being in the shark cage in the first place? The whole point of Jericho being in the shark cage was to avoid interference. So now you've got Jericho up in the cage, but it's also no DQ, which means Jericho didn't have to be in the cage because he would have been there anyway. It would have been legal, and my brain exploded. Nia Jax taking on Lynn in a squash match here. Lynn, she trained at OVW. She's married to Dylan Bostic. She didn't last very long in this one. Nia Jax wins via snoo. She cuts a promo, trashed on Sasha Banks. Sasha comes out and actually kind of wallops the hell out of Nia Jax with the crutch and actually does the double knees from the apron to the floor. That was pretty cool to watch. And now they're going to have a match at the kickoff of the Rumble, and we'll see how that turns out. Rich Swann beating Noam Dar in singles action. After the match, he calls out Neville saying, "You think you're the king of the cruiserweights? I think you're a jester." Boo! The much hyped Goldberg appearance at the end of the show, somewhere between making his way down the hallway and coming out and cutting the promo, he bled. I was so confused to what happened. Turns out I read apparently he has this pre-match tradition where he will headbutt a door just before going out to psych him up, get the adrenaline pumping. Apparently this one not only gigged him, but I think it also might have concussed him because for the first minute or two or so of his promo, he was stammering, he couldn't get his words out, he looked very confused, and I was worried, like, did he suffer an aneurysm or a stroke in the middle of the ring on live television? Then Paul Heyman comes out, cuts a promo, Goldberg banters back, Brock Lesnar comes out, and I think he was rumored he was going to be there, but it was never officially confirmed, so they have a stare down. That's pretty cool. Then all of a sudden, holy shit, The Undertaker coming out. That was really cool. Usually when you have someone on the level of Lesnar or The Undertaker, they hype the shit out of this stuff, and they say all night, these guys are going to be here. Oh my God. They'll say a week in advance. Oh my God, he's got to be here. So when you have a guy like The Undertaker make a surprise appearance like that at the Rumble, it only makes sense because he is in the Rumble match, but to have him at the end there staring down with Goldberg and Lesnar all together was a really cool way, I think, to end the show. Just kind of unpredictable, like cliffhanger moment. It's very reminiscent of, when Raw in 98, 99 would end in a brawl or a stare down or something going on, and it's just like, oh my God, this like new thing, this new development just happened. Or like if it cuts to, backstage or something, at the very last second you see some kind of scuffle happen. Like that's kind of what it reminded me of. It was just kind of that unpredictability factor that, you long for as a wrestling fan. So that was a really cool, strong way to end the show. SmackDown opened up this week with the brother versus brother match between Luke Harper and Randy Orton, the Wyatt family members coming apart at the seams. Really cool to see all three members of the Wyatts come out together for this match, putting these two bitter rivals now against each other. Really fun to see the two of them like competing for Bray's attention and love throughout the whole thing. Very hard-hitting stuff. I love the stuff they were doing, the brawl on the outside. That was really cool, the stuff at the table. Luke goes for a discus punch. It's countered into an RKO. Orton wins the match, and this was like a really good, solid wrestling match. I had no complaints about this match. Both guys are incredible workers. I want to see these two wrestle more now. Bray Wyatt hits Luke Harper with Sister Abby and walks off with Randy Orton. Now, what does this mean? Is Luke Harper officially out of the Wyatts? Is this just more punishment and tough love by Bray Wyatt? Are they all going to be working as a cohesive unit at the Rumble on Sunday? I kind of doubt it. I'm sure there's going to be more to this storyline on Sunday, but this was a really cool way to start the show. Mickie James with her return promo after being revealed as La Luchadora last week. For a quick second, I thought she was pulling the Dolph Ziggler and doing the slow talking, this is the heel voice now. And like for a second I was gonna go, oh God, not this again. But then she actually did some depth and had some like range and levels in her delivery. I thought it was really good. She was kind of turning into the psycho Mickie James at some point toward Renee Young. Very clear her character is showing she has a chip on her shoulder, basically saying that she is not getting the recognition she deserves, basically predating the women's revolution and all the accomplishments that the current generation of women's wrestlers are getting, kind of leaving her by the wayside. Becky Lynch interrupts. This is my favorite favorite part of the whole segment where, you know, usually when someone's cutting a promo and somebody comes out to interrupt, usually the person who's in the ring cutting the promo just sits there and stands quietly while wrestler B makes their way to the ring. But in this case, Mickie James is still on the mic and says, "You better come here, I'll give you something to cry about." She's talking while Becky Lynch is walking down and the music's playing, and they go right into a fight. Like, yes, I love seeing stuff like that. It feels natural. It feels like this is like something that would really happen, not just like stand there and wait for the other wrestler to get on their mark and then start talking. The fighting happens, Alexa Bliss comes in, intervenes, and the two of them, Bliss and Mickie James, beat up Becky Lynch. Carmella goes clothes shopping with James Ellsworth, who I think got a spray tan recently. I thought the one weird thing about this skit was, like, why would this seemingly fancy schmancy clothing boutique have an Elvis costume and a very ugly Christmas sweater? It's an over-the-top rope challenge full of jobbers to determine who is going to go on to be in the Royal Rumble match. I was pulling for Kurt Hawkins early on, but as soon as he got eliminated by Mojo, I knew right then that Mojo was going to win the whole thing because he was the only singles star among all these tag teams. But I'm also happy Mojo won because, like I said a few weeks ago after Zack Ryder got injured, I didn't want to see Mojo just get, you know, tossed to the wayside, not being used. While Zack Ryder was hurt, he was starting to grow on me as a competitor, and so I wanted to see more of what they can do with him as a singles guy in Zack Ryder's absence. So we'll see what impact, if any, he makes in the Rumble match. The AJ Styles John Cena segment, before Cena comes out to introduce his new winter line of merchandise, Styles correctly pointed out the grievous error that he, the WWE champion, is like way in the back of the Royal Rumble poster. I thought that was completely ridiculous when I first saw that. Then Styles shows the clip from the Today Show where John Cena and Tamron Hall and Al Roker are talking about the guy from Atlanta as Cena's opponent. They don't even bother to give him a name, which seems especially insulting. And then Styles goes into his rant. He's not just some guy from Atlanta. You know, he's the guy who kicked your ass, this and that. And, you know, he's talking about respect and everything. It was a good speech, a fine speech, you might say, by AJ Styles. John Cena's rebuttal basically took the piss out of every internet commenter over the last decade because he was just bringing things, oh, if I win, people will say I buried you. And, oh, people don't like me because I didn't spend time on the indies. Like, it was a little meta, but at the same time, I thought it was very good because, you know, a lot of smart fans do watch the show and see it live, and those comments definitely did get pops, audible reactions from the crowd, so I think it worked. John Cena steals a line from his old rap album saying he's a bad, bad man and walks off. That's the end of the segment. I think that actually they're kind of missing, there's kind of a golden opportunity here that I really hope they play on Sunday, because you've got the guy from Atlanta, AJ Styles, the guy from New England, John Cena. I should just put them in their respective team colors. Put AJ Styles in red, black, and white tights and make John Cena wear a Patriots shirt on the way out. Who knows? Dolph Ziggler taking on Kalisto in a match that wasn't really much to it. It was Ziggler just kind of squashing Kalisto really quickly. He's going for a chair. Apollo Crews makes a save. Something tells me those two are going to have a pre-show match on Sunday. The return of Naomi to SmackDown. She was billed to take on Natalya, but that match never happened as Natalya and Nikki Bella got into a big brawl in the back, a continuation from earlier in the day when Natalya jumped Nikki Bella in the parking lot before the show. Naomi gets on the mic, says, no, I want a match. Somebody come down and face me in a match. I was just hoping, praying, oh, come on, please let Eva Marie come back here. But no, that didn't happen. It was Alexa Bliss coming out to basically just talk mad shit to Naomi and basically say she was nothing. But I'm like, didn't you lose to Naomi at No Mercy? And by the way, it was a really shitty match. Intercontinental Championship Lumberjack match as Dean Ambrose defends against The Miz. As The Miz is making his entrance, Mauro Ranallo makes a lightning quick reference to alternative facts, which I got a pop out of. I tweeted about that, and then he retweeted that, which made me pop even bigger. I feel like with Lumberjack matches, you walk a very fine line. Like, you can have a good balance of like Lumberjack interference and then wrestling stuff, but also you can have a thing where the Lumberjacks get a little too excessive. And I think at some points they almost dipped into that side a little bit, like, ooh, almost a little bit too much, but I think overall it was a well-balanced match between Lumberjacks and actual in-ring stuff. I love the spot where the Lumberjacks grabbed Ambrose in mid-rebound lariat and like dragged him outside. That was pretty fun. Also good to see guys like the Usos and the Vaudevillains and Breezango in this match. Hell, between this and the over-the-top rope thing from earlier, I have seen more of the Vaudevillains and Breezango tonight than I have in what it feels like months. Also nice seeing the tag team champions, American Alpha, kind of there in the background for the first time in what feels like weeks. At one point near the end of the match, the fans started chanting, "This is awesome." Shut up. It was not that awesome. It was okay. It was not awesome. At one point, all the Lumberjacks get in. There's a huge melee, and then at the end, Ambrose wins with 30 deeds and retains. And so ends the show as we go into the Royal Rumble. Time now for me to decide which show wore it better for the week, Raw or SmackDown? And you know what? I got a lot of feedback last week on my rant and stuff, and like I said, I apologize for getting so salty toward the people who are in the comment section bashing me and stuff. I know it comes with the territory of being someone on YouTube that if you make an opinion, someone's going to shit on it, and I really should prepare myself better. I really should steel myself for that sort of thing and not let it get to me. I'm only human. After a while I crack, but I'm fine now. And now I'm at the point where I just don't really care what the dissenting opinion says anymore, and I'm going to say Raw won for the week. But let me explain why. It's not a fanboyism thing or anything like that. It's just a thing where it's go home week for the Rumble. It is traditionally one of the most exciting pay-per-views of the year. And when it comes to like treating it like that, I think Raw definitely felt like a go home show. SmackDown felt safe. That's the best word I can describe. It was a solid show. I would say it was overall a cleaner show than Raw in a lot of respects, but at the same time, this didn't feel to me like, hey, we're hyping things up for the Royal Rumble. Like, it felt like the SmackDown after a SmackDown exclusive pay-per-view. Now, on SmackDown, they're doing a great job building up the WWE Championship match between Cena and Styles. They're doing great with that. No complaints there. But on the other hand, they're putting almost zero emphasis on the Rumble match itself, where ostensibly there's going to be some SmackDown people in the match as well, and like you would barely know it because all the focus has been on the Raw people who are going to be in the Rumble match. So you just know from the way they're building it that someone from Raw is going to win the Rumble on Sunday. And I have a prediction. I'm not going to say who it is in this video. Wait for my prediction video later this week for that. So yes, maybe once you start building toward Elimination Chamber and WrestleMania, SmackDown will find its groove and finally get clicking on all cylinders. But again, I do have to give Raw the win this week just because it made me way more excited for the Royal Rumble on Sunday than SmackDown did. SmackDown was a clean show, but it was also too safe in my opinion. A quick programming note for you guys. Tomorrow's episode, you might have seen it last Thursday because it was supposed to be scheduled for this week, but I forgot to reschedule it for tomorrow, so it came out at the same time as my Great Wrestlers Bad Mask video. I didn't notice it until like an hour after the fact, so I took the video for this week down and rescheduled. So if you saw this week's video last week, then congrats to you, you win a gold star. But if you didn't, then congratulations, there's going to be a new video coming out tomorrow, yay! And then Friday, Jay Biggs and I will be giving our Royal Rumble predictions, so be on the lookout for that as well. Let me know what you thought about Raw and SmackDown this week. Be sure to thumbs up this video if you like it, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, and buy the t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com. I'm Byron Zayn, and I'll see you next time.